The office was nearly silent, the kind of silence that only comes after everyone else has gone home. Ryan Cole sat at his desk, finishing the last of his designs. The glow from his computer screen reflected in the dark glass window beside him, where rain ran in uneven lines. He stretched his arms and rubbed his eyes. It had been a long day, one of many lately. He was the newest designer at Henderson and Vale, a well-known interior design firm in Chicago. And he was still learning how to prove himself. He stood to pack his things when a soft voice came from behind him. "Still here, Ryan?" He turned quickly. It was his boss, Claire Henderson, co-founder of the company, known for her composure and quiet authority. She was in her late 30s, always dressed in a way that made confidence look effortless. Tonight, her gray coat hung loosely around her shoulders, and a few strands of hair had slipped free from her bun. Ryan smiled politely. "Just wrapping up a few edits on the restaurant project. I'll be out in a minute." Claire walked closer, her heels clicking lightly against the floor. "You've been working hard lately. You should eat something before you pass out over that laptop." He laughed softly. "Dinner's just going to be whatever I find in my fridge." She paused for a moment, watching the rain outside. "Then how about this? You come have dinner at my place. My husband's cooking tonight. It'll be better than anything waiting in your fridge." Ryan blinked, not sure he'd heard her right. "Dinner with you?" She gave a small, amused smile. "With me and Daniel. Yes. He's been wanting to meet the designer who's been saving my presentations." Ryan hesitated. "I wouldn't want to intrude." "Nonsense," she said icily. "You've earned a real meal. Besides, Daniel makes enough for a family of 10. There was something disarming about the way she said it, warm, almost friendly. Ryan didn't want to seem rude, so he nodded. "All right, if you're sure." "Good," she said, already putting on her coat. "Grab your bag. We'll drive together." They rode the elevator in silence, the sound of the rain outside filling the quiet. For a moment, Ryan wondered what people would think if they saw him leaving with her. The boss everyone admired but kept at a distance. But when the elevator doors opened and she smiled at him, his nerves eased a little. In her car, the city lights blurred through the rain-streaked windshield. Claire talked about things that had nothing to do with work, how she missed the small town she grew up in, how Daniel collected old records, how their cat refused to eat anything but salmon. She laughed at herself as she said it. And Ryan found it strangely comforting to see her in this lighter, more human way. "Do you ever stop working?" she asked suddenly. "Trying to," he said with a smile. "Still learning how." She nodded, glancing at him. "Don't let this city convince you that overworking is success. It took me years to realize that." Her tone held something deeper, something tired. Ryan wanted to ask what she meant, but before he could, they turned into a quiet neighborhood lined with trees and soft lights glowing in windows. Claire's home stood at the end of the street, modern, elegant, yet somehow warm. When the front door opened, a tall man with kind eyes and a warm grin greeted them. "You must be Ryan. I'm Daniel." He shook Ryan's hand firmly. "Claire's been talking about you nonstop. The young designer who's always fixing her last-minute chaos." Claire rolled her eyes. "Don't exaggerate." Ryan smiled shyly. "It's nice to finally meet you. Thank you for having me." Come in, Daniel said. "Dinner's ready." The smell of lemon, garlic, and fresh herbs filled the air. The house felt lived in, framed photos on the walls. A record player humming in the corner, books scattered on the coffee table. Ryan felt strangely at ease, like he'd walked into a home that had stories in every corner. They sat down to dinner, and Daniel poured wine while Claire served the pasta. Conversation flowed naturally. Daniel asked about Ryan's background, his family, and how he ended up in design. Ryan told them about growing up in Ohio, about his mother who used to paint, and about the day he decided he wanted to create beautiful spaces like she did. Claire listened quietly, her eyes thoughtful. Every so often she'd smile, not her professional, polite smile from the office, but something softer. "You remind me of someone I used to be," she said at one point, her voice low. Ryan tilted his head. Someone you used to be? She nodded slowly. Someone who believed that passion alone could fix everything. She looked down at her plate. Life teaches you that passion isn't always enough. Ryan didn't know how to respond. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was heavy. But honest. Daniel broke it with a cheerful laugh. Don't listen to her, Ryan. She says things like that every time it rains. It's the weather. Claire smiled, playing along. Maybe he's right. They ate dessert, a lemon tart Daniel proudly admitted he'd burned slightly. They laughed about it, and for a brief time, the house was filled with warmth and laughter. Then Daniel's phone rang. He excused himself to take the call in another room. Claire stood to collect the plates, but Ryan stopped her. I've got it. You cooked well, Daniel cooked, but I can help clean up. She smiled. That's kind of you. They worked side by side in the kitchen, rinsing dishes and talking quietly. The rain outside grew softer, tapping gently against the windows. When she passed him a towel, their hands brushed just for a second, but it sent a quiet current through him. He quickly looked away, drying the plate in silence. Ryan, she said after a moment, her tone gentle. Do you like working at Henderson and Vale? He nodded immediately. I do. It's challenging, but I'm learning a lot. She studied him for a second. I see so much potential in you. You could go far. Maybe farther than I did. There was something in her eyes, admiration, maybe pride or something else entirely. Before he could reply, Daniel returned to the room. Sorry about that, he said with an easy smile. Work emergency. Claire turned toward him, her expression calm again, her tone businesslike. Everything okay? Daniel nodded. Yes, but it reminded me of something. Actually, he looked at Ryan with a curious smile. There's something I've been wanting to ask you. Maybe tonight's the right time. Ryan glanced between them, unsure where this was going. Claire looked slightly surprised, and for the first time that evening, a bit tense. Daniel set down his phone and leaned forward. Ryan, how would you feel about helping us with something personal, a project outside the office? Ryan hesitated. A project. Daniel nodded slowly, his tone still kind but serious. Something that matters to both of us. Claire looked down, her hands folded tightly. The silence stretched between them, carrying something unspoken. Something Ryan didn't yet understand. The rain had stopped outside, but inside the air had changed. And in that quiet moment, Ryan knew this dinner was about more than good food. Something was coming, something he couldn't yet name. The night wasn't over. It had just begun. The next morning, Ryan couldn't focus at work. The sound of keyboards, printers, and phone calls blurred into background noise. He kept replaying Daniel's words from the night before. A personal project that mattered to both of us. The way Claire had gone quiet after he said it still lingered in his mind. He didn't know what they meant, but something about it felt complicated. When Claire arrived late to the office, she looked tired, like she hadn't slept. Her usual calm expression carried something unreadable. She passed by Ryan's desk with a small nod, then disappeared into her glass-walled office. Hours passed before she finally called him in. Ryan, can we talk for a minute? She asked softly. He followed her in, notebook in hand. Unsure if this was about work or last night, she closed the door and leaned against her desk. I hope Daniel didn't make you uncomfortable yesterday. He tends to jump ahead of things before explaining them. Ryan shook his head. Not at all. I just wasn't sure what he meant. Claire exhaled slowly. He's been working on a property outside the city, a lake house that belonged to his family. We've been trying to renovate it, but it's complicated. Complicated how? She hesitated. It's not just a house. It's where Daniel's parents lived before they passed. He wants to bring it back to life, and I think he believes you're the right person to help. Ryan frowned. Me, Claire nodded. You have a style that feels personal. You design like you're telling a story. Daniel noticed that in your work, you didn't know what to say. The idea of working privately for his boss and her husband was flattering, but also strange. I'm honored, but are you sure I'm ready for something like that? She smiled faintly. I think you're more ready than you believe. Before he could respond, Daniel himself appeared at the glass door, smiling as if he'd timed it perfectly. "Talking about me, I hope?" Claire sighed lightly, but Daniel's warmth filled the room instantly. He stepped in carrying a folder. "I wanted to show Ryan the plans." I spread out the photos on the table, an old wooden house near a lake, surrounded by tall pines. Even through faded pictures, Ryan could see the potential. "It's beautiful," he said. "It used to be," Daniel replied quietly. "It's been empty for years. We thought about selling it, but I couldn't let it go. So we want to rebuild it. Not just the house, but what it meant to us." Ryan looked at him, then at Claire. "And you want me to design it?" Daniel nodded. "With us. You'd lead the design and stay close during the process. It's outside the company, your name would be on it. Not Henderson and Vales." Ryan's eyes widened. "That's a big offer." Daniel smiled. "It is, but you've earned it. You have something rare heart in your work." Claire watched quietly, her gaze softer than usual. Ryan could feel something between them, not romantic, but emotional, like they were both holding on to unspoken things. After the meeting, Ryan returned to his desk, still in disbelief. The opportunity was huge. But as he thought about it, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than design. Later that week, he met them at the lake house. The road curved through pine trees, leading to a quiet shore where the water shimmered under the afternoon sun. The house stood at the edge, weathered wood, cracked paint, but surrounded by peace. Daniel greeted him with his usual warmth, while Claire walked slowly around the property, lost in thought. "It feels different being here again," she said softly, "like time stopped." Ryan followed her gaze. "It's a beautiful place. It used to be our escape," Daniel said. "Before the business took over, before life got complicated." Ryan could hear the heaviness in his tone. Whatever they were rebuilding wasn't just a house, it was their relationship. Over the next few days, Ryan worked on sketches while Daniel and Claire discussed ideas. They disagreed often. Daniel wanted modern simplicity, while Claire wanted to preserve memories. Ryan tried to balance both, but as he watched them, he began to notice something fragile between them. Distance, even in small silences. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Ryan stayed late to finish drawings. Claire walked out from the house carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "You're still working?" she asked, sitting beside him on the porch steps. "Just trying to get the lighting right," he said, showing her his sketch. She smiled. "You draw light the way people paint feelings. That's rare." He laughed softly. "I guess that's the goal, to make a space feel alive." They sat quietly for a while, watching the sky fade into shades of pink and blue. Then she spoke again, her voice quieter. "Daniel and I started this project hoping it would bring us closer. But sometimes I wonder if rebuilding something old really heals what's broken." Ryan looked at her, unsure what to say. "Maybe it doesn't heal everything," he said finally. "But it reminds you why it was worth building in the first place." She looked at him, her eyes thoughtful. "You sound older than you are," he smiled. "I've seen people give up on things too easily. I don't want to be one of them." Before she could reply, Daniel came out of the house. "You two talking design or philosophy?" he teased. Both, Claire said lightly, standing up. "Ryan's full of ideas." Daniel smiled at Ryan. "Good. We'll need all the ideas we can get." That night, as Ryan packed his things, Daniel stopped him at the car. "Thank you for being here," he said sincerely. "You've brought a calmness back to this place. Claire seems lighter when you're around." Ryan didn't know how to respond. "I'm just doing my job," he said quietly. Daniel shook his head. "It's more than that. You listen. That's rare these days." As Ryan drove back to the city, his thoughts tangled. He admired Claire's strength, Daniel's kindness, their shared vulnerability. But he also felt caught in the middle of something delicate, a space between two people trying to find their way back to each other. Over the following weeks, they worked closely together. The house slowly transformed, walls painted, rooms opened, light flooding through tall windows. But beneath the progress, emotions deepened. Claire seemed to find comfort in Ryan's quiet presence. Daniel noticed, though he never said anything. One afternoon, as they reviewed the final layout, Daniel placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. "You've done something amazing here. You've given this place life again?" Claire nodded, but her eyes didn't meet Daniel's. Ryan understood what it needed, she said softly. Daniel looked at her for a long moment, then turned back to Ryan. "Actually," he began, his tone different now, slower, heavier. "There's something else I want to ask you. Something that might sound strange." Ryan frowned slightly. "What is it?" Daniel hesitated, glancing at Claire. She looked uncertain, her fingers tightening around her notebook. Daniel took a breath. "You've seen how much this project means to us. But there's a reason beyond the house. I wanted someone we could trust, someone who'd see us clearly." Ryan stared at him, confused. "I don't understand." Daniel exchanged a glance with Claire, and in that silent exchange, Ryan felt the weight of something unspoken, something personal. Then Daniel said quietly, "I want your help, not just rebuilding the house, but rebuilding us." The words hung in the air. Claire looked down, her expression unreadable. Ryan's heartbeat quickened. He had expected a design challenge, not an emotional one. And in that moment, he realized this project wasn't about architecture. It was about love, distance, and the fragile line between connection and loss. He didn't know what he'd just stepped into, but he knew it would change all three of them. Ryan didn't sleep that night. Daniel's words kept echoing in his mind. "Help us, rebuild us." It wasn't something a husband usually said to another man, especially one working under his wife. He tried to brush it off, telling himself they were just a couple going through a hard time. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. The next morning, the sky over the lake was gray again. The air smelled of rain, the kind that seemed to arrive just when things got too heavy. Ryan drove back to the lake house, his thoughts restless. When he arrived, he found Claire sitting alone on the porch, wrapped in a sweater, staring at the water. "Daniel's in town," she said quietly when she saw him. "He had meetings all day." Ryan nodded and sat across from her. For a long moment, neither spoke. The lake rippled gently, reflecting the muted clouds above. "Did his offer make you uncomfortable?" she asked, finally. Ryan hesitated. "I just didn't expect it. I thought this was about the house." Claire gave a small, sad smile. "That's what I thought too, at first." She paused, her voice lowering. "Daniel and I have been apart for a while. Not officially, but emotionally. The house was his way of fixing it, or pretending to." Ryan watched her face, the way she spoke like someone carrying too much silence. "What happened?" She shrugged softly. "Time, distance, success. We built a company together, and somewhere along the line, we stopped building us. The house used to be our escape before everything became about deadlines and investors." She glanced at him. "I think Daniel hoped that if we could restore this place, maybe we could restore what we lost." Ryan nodded slowly, understanding her pain but unsure what to say. "Do you think it's working?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But I do know that being here, it's forcing me to feel things I buried a long time ago." Ryan looked at her, not as his boss, but as a woman who'd been trying too hard to hold her world together. There was a quiet strength in her sadness, and it made him want to help, though he didn't know how. For the next few days, Daniel was mostly gone, handling business trips and calls. Claire and Ryan spent long hours at the site, reviewing plans, painting, rearranging furniture. The rhythm of their work brought a strange kind of peace. They shared stories over coffee breaks and laughed at small mistakes. For the first time, Ryan felt like they weren't just rebuilding a house. They were rediscovering pieces of life that still had meaning. One afternoon, as they were fixing a set of old shelves, Claire found a small wooden box hidden behind the planks. Dust covered it, and the lock was rusted. When Ryan pried it open, they found a few old photographs of Daniel as a boy, sitting by the same lake, and a letter written in his mother's handwriting. Claire traced the edge of the paper. She used to write him letters before she passed. "I think this was the last one." Ryan nodded quietly. The air felt heavy again, filled with memories neither of them owned but could feel deeply. That evening, Daniel returned, looking more tired than usual. He noticed the open box and sighed. "So you found it." Claire handed him the letter. "She wanted you to have this, Daniel. Maybe it's time." He didn't read it right away. Instead, he looked between them as if trying to understand something invisible. "You two seem close," he said softly, not accusingly, but with quiet curiosity. Ryan froze, unsure how to respond. "We've just been working hard to finish." Daniel nodded, then smiled faintly. "Good. That's what this house needs, heart." But his tone carried something deeper, a sadness Ryan couldn't name. Later that night, after dinner, Daniel asked Ryan to join him by the fire pit outside. The flames flickered between them, and the sound of crickets filled the air. Daniel handed him a drink and stared into the fire. "Claire told you some things, didn't she?" Ryan nodded carefully. "Only a little." Daniel took a breath. "I've made mistakes. Big ones. I chased success so hard I forgot what I was chasing it for. I hurt her without meaning to. Now I don't know if I can fix it." Ryan said nothing. He could see the sincerity in Daniel's eyes, the kind of guilt that comes only from realizing. "You've lost something priceless," Daniel continued, his voice lower. "When I said I wanted you to help us, I didn't mean to put you in an awkward position. It's just, when you're around, Claire smiles again. She talks. She looks alive. And maybe that's what I wanted for her to remember what happiness feels like, even if it's not because of me." The words hit Ryan like a wave. He hadn't realized how visible the change was, or how much it mattered to Daniel. "You think I can help with that?" Daniel gave a weary smile. "I think you already are." For a moment, neither spoke. The fire crackled softly. Ryan felt torn admiration for Daniel's honesty, and a strange ache he couldn't explain. The next day, Claire seemed distant again. Something in her had shifted, maybe because of whatever Daniel had said the night before. She worked quietly, avoiding eye contact. When Ryan finally asked if she was okay, she only said, "I just need to think." They finished the day in silence. When the sun set, Claire walked to the edge of the dock and stood there for a long time, her reflection trembling in the water. Ryan joined her, unsure if he should speak. "Daniel told me what he said," she murmured. "About me smiling again." Ryan's heart tightened. "He just wants you to be happy." She turned to him. "I know, but it hurts that he needed someone else to remind me how." Ryan didn't know what to say. The wind blew softly, and the sound of water filled the space between them. He could see tears in her eyes, though she quickly blinked them away. "He's a good man," she said quietly. "Flawed, but good. I just don't know if love can find its way back after it's been lost for so long." Ryan looked out at the horizon. Maybe love never really leaves. It just waits for someone to notice it again. She smiled faintly. "You say things like that, and I start to believe them." They stood there until the stars came out, two people connected, not by romance, but by shared understanding. There was no need for touch or confession. Just silence, honesty, and something quietly human. Later that week, the house was nearly complete. The walls glowed with soft colors, the rooms filled with light. Daniel returned again, holding the framed letter from his mother. "I think she'd be proud," he said. Claire looked at him, tears in her eyes. She would. For the first time in years, they embraced, not perfectly, not fully healed, but closer than before. Ryan stood back, watching them. He felt a strange peace. Maybe this was what Daniel wanted all along, not competition or conflict. But understanding when Daniel turned to him, his voice was steady. "Thank you, Ryan. You helped us find our way back." Ryan smiled. "I didn't do much." Claire shook her head. "You did enough. Sometimes all we need is someone to see what we've stopped seeing ourselves." As Ryan drove away that evening, the sun broke through the clouds. The lake shimmered, calm and whole again. He realized that love didn't always come as a story of new beginnings. Sometimes was about giving others the chance to begin again. A year passed since the lake house project ended. Ryan's life had moved forward, at least on the surface. His designs were being noticed. New clients kept calling, and his firm was growing faster than he ever imagined. But sometimes, late at night, he would think of that house by the lake, the smell of fresh paint, the quiet hum of rain on the roof, and the way the sunlight touched Claire's face when she smiled for the first time in a long while. He never went back, and neither Claire nor Daniel had contacted him since the day they said goodbye. Then, one afternoon in early autumn, his phone rang. The name on the screen made his heart skip. Claire Henderson. For a second, he thought he was imagining it. He answered quickly, trying to sound composed. "Claire, it's been a while." Her voice was softer than he remembered. "Hi, Ryan. I hope this isn't a bad time." "Not at all," he said. "How are you?" There was a pause before she answered. "I'm managing. Actually, I was hoping to see you. There's something I'd like to talk about." Something in her tone made him uneasy. "Is everything okay?" She hesitated. "Daniel passed away 3 months ago." The words landed like a quiet blow. Ryan didn't speak at first. He remembered Daniel's warmth, his honesty, the way he had tried so hard to fix things. I'm so sorry, Claire," he said finally. "Thank you," she said softly. He'd been sick for a while. He didn't tell many people. He wanted to finish the house before it got worse. Ryan felt a lump in his throat. He loved that place. "I could see it." "He did," she whispered. "That's why I'm calling. I went back there last week for the first time since the funeral. And I found something he left for you." "For me?" "Yes," she said. "A letter. He must have written it after the renovation ended. I think he wanted you to have it." Ryan was silent for a long moment. "I'll come," he said finally. "Tomorrow." The drive back to the lake felt strangely familiar. The same trees, the same narrow road, but everything looked calmer now. When he arrived, the house stood quietly by the water, nude, peaceful, alive. Claire stood on the porch wearing a long gray coat, her hair tied back. She looked different, older, but somehow lighter. Like she had let go of years of weight. "Thank you for coming," she said as he stepped out of his car. "Of course," he replied. "It's good to see you again." Inside, the house looked almost the same as the day they had finished it. The walls were still painted in soft earth tones, and the lake view still filled the windows. Claire led him to the study, where a single envelope lay on the desk. His name was written in Daniel's familiar handwriting. "He must have hidden it in one of the drawers," Claire said quietly. "I found it when I was sorting through things." Ryan picked up the letter, feeling a wave of emotion. He looked at Claire. "Do you want me to read it now?" She nodded. "Please." He unfolded the paper carefully. Daniel's handwriting was steady but faded in places. "Ryan, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer around. Don't be sad about that. I lived a good life, made mistakes, learned from them, and loved more than I deserved. I wanted to thank you not for the house, but for what you brought into it. You reminded me that love isn't about holding on, but learning how to let go with grace. You helped me see Claire again, not as the woman I failed, but as the person she always was. For that, I'm forever grateful. Take care of her, even if it's just in spirit. And don't stop building things that bring people back to life." By the time Ryan finished reading, his voice had grown quiet. Claire's eyes shimmered, though she didn't cry. "That's who he was," she whispered, "always thinking of others, even when he was hurting." Ryan folded the letter carefully. "He really loved you, Claire." She nodded. "And I loved him. Even when everything fell apart, I never stopped." She looked out the window at the lake. "He didn't tell me about his illness until it was too late. I think he wanted to protect me." They stood there in silence for a while. The sound of wind rustling through the trees filled the room. Then Claire turned to him. "After the funeral, I couldn't stay in the city. I moved here for a while, trying to understand what comes next, but now I think I'm ready to start over." Ryan looked at her, unsure what to say. "That's brave." "It's necessary," she said with a small smile. and I wanted to ask if you'd help me again. Not as my designer this time, but as a friend. I want to open this house as a retreat, a place where people can come when they're lost, like we once were." Ryan's expression softened. "That sounds like something Daniel would have loved." She nodded. He believed healing doesn't happen alone. And I think he was right. Over the next few months, Ryan visited often to help her plan the retreat. They worked side by side again, but this time the energy was different, gentler, grounded. They added simple cabins near the lake, a small garden where people could sit and reflect. Every detail was done with care, a quiet tribute to Daniel's memory. As spring arrived, first guests came: artists, teachers, people recovering from loss. The house filled with quiet laughter and soft music. For the first time, the place truly lived again. One evening, after everyone had gone to bed, Ryan and Claire sat by the porch watching the moon reflect on the water. The air was cool, and the night carried that same stillness they'd shared long ago. "It's beautiful," Ryan said. Claire smiled. "It feels peaceful now, like it finally found its purpose." He looked at her, seeing the calm in her eyes. "And you?" "I think I did too," she said softly. "For a long time, I thought love ended when people left. But I've learned it doesn't. It just changes shape." Ryan nodded, understanding. "Daniel would be proud of you." She smiled faintly. "Of us, maybe." They sat quietly, the sound of the lake filling the space between them. There was no need for words, no unspoken tension. Just two souls who had walked through grief and come out kinder, lighter, and somehow more alive. As the night deepened, Claire turned to him. "You know, he was right about you. You do bring things back to life." Ryan smiled, a little embarrassed. "I just build houses." She shook her head gently. "No, you build hope." Moonlight shimmered across the lake. And Ryan realized that what began as a project had become something far more meaningful. He hadn't just helped rebuild a house. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.